Lavina Jain, Coordinator, APTA Women's Forum, Maharashtra State Branch, and Head of the Department, DPharm, Vidarbha College of Pharmacy, Amravati, welcomes you all to the second day of the Train the Trainer session of APTA Women's Forum, Maharashtra State Branch, and APTA Women's Forum West Zone in collaboration with Indira College of Pharmacy, Pune. I feel privileged and honored to introduce today's esteemed speaker, Dr. Ruxana Pinjari. Dr. Ruxana Pinjari ma'am is currently working as a principal and campus director of Alumni Education Foundation, College of Pharmacy, Pune. She has completed her B.Pharm, M.Pharm, and PhD from University of Pune. She has a vast professional experience of more than 28 years. Dr. Ruxana ma'am has worked as a production trainee, as a hospital pharmacist, as a lecturer, as an associate professor, and as department head in various organizations. Dr. Ruxana ma'am has research specialization in natural products research. She has guided 31 M.Pharm students on research projects and has received funding of around 23 lakhs rupees from various organizations. Ma'am has also presented 10 national and 2 international research papers and availed research funding in 31 international journals. She has authored 2 books and 3 book chapters and has 4 patents to her credit. She has won state level Avishkar 2015 in teachers category and has awarded Devan Mehta National Education Award for the best professor in pharmacognosy. She is also member of various professional bodies and renowned organizations. Ma'am has also organized 5 international, national, and state level seminars. Now, I request Ruxana ma'am to start the session.
Okay, thank
Over
you
to you,
very
ma'am.
much. Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Lavina Jain, ma'am, right?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
My
Uh,
pleasure.
yeah, at the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Anagha, ma'am, for giving me this opportunity to be a part of this Train the Trainer program, and for the privilege to be in a role of trainer. I must also thank the APTI Women's Forum, Dr. Vandana Patravale, ma'am. I am very much privileged and happy to be interacting with Vandana, ma'am, one to one. I have always listened to her very knowledgeable and informative talks. I think this is the first time where we are interacting one to one. So, thank you for inviting me as a speaker, and I am really very glad, to contribute, and give some tips. Valuable is a question, then the audience will decide. For the pharmacognosy, how you take the instructions, how you reach out to the students, how you enhance the learning, especially in the field of pharmacognosy. So let's begin. Let me share my screen. Is my screen visible, Lavina ma'am?
Yeah, ma'am. It's visible, ma'am.
Okay, good. Okay, so my title of the talk is a conventional and innovative pedagogy for empowerment of new age faculty, especially a need for pharmacognosy facelift. This is what is the responsibility of me as a senior teacher, and then all the young ones, young and dynamic faculty who have recently joined or who are into that, the middle level platform where they have been teaching for about 10 years. So it becomes my duty, my responsibility to give some insight about how the subject can be made interesting through various, through various tips, you can say, or various tools, we can say. So we will talk about the topic again. Need for pharmacognosy facelift is what the need of the hour. So here we are. First, to begin with, I must congratulate all the faculty, all the teachers who have been working together for all these years, and those, especially those who have been teaching pharmacognosy. It is not very easy to teach pharmacognosy. Those who are pharmacognosy subject teachers or related subject teachers will agree with me. Nowadays, where students have got so much of awareness about their career avenues, about their job prospects, their future endeavors, they it's very difficult for them to convince how important pharmacognosy is. And being a teacher, first of all, is a challenge in itself, right? Only those people who have got all the qualities seen on the screen, having the tolerance, having that uh, the feeling of, or that what I can say is
Ruxana madam, sorry to interrupt, but
yeah.
we can see a thank you slide, images slide.
Oh, is that so? Just a moment. I will let me go back.
Maybe you'll have to unshare and again share.
Okay, I'll do that. You could hear me well, right?
Yeah, we could hear you.
Okay.
We are able to.
Yeah. I will go back. Wait. It was a new share, I guess, because of that.
Ruxana ma'am, you can do one thing. If it is not, if it is a problem, you can mail me the presentation, and our person will host it for you.
No, is it fine now?
Now we are able to see you, but not the presentation. Not the screen.
Okay, let me share again.
Yeah.
I've done the share screen.
No.
Just a moment. It was on a share. Let me check. What do you see now?
We can see Anaga ma'am.
Okay. Now let me see.
Madam, Ruxana madam, you open the presentation on your laptop.
I had opened. Okay, let me see. We had started actually in the beginning, but it collapsed, I guess. So let me just check. At around 9:45, we were ready with the screen. But what do you see now?
Nothing, ma'am.
Not yet.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Let me just see. Okay, give me a second. It's been a long time that I am not on the share.
I will ask Digambar to give you a call so that it will be easy for you. He will direct you.
Just a moment. We will just work it out because we already had done the rehearsal. So I will see if we can do that. Just a moment. The share screen is still on. I think now it's there. You see it?
Yes,
Yes,
Now it's visible, ma'am.
Sorry for that inconvenience. Sorry. I think it just got little. All right then. So we go where we had been. You can see the second slide now.
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes. So I'm repeating again what I said. I must congratulate the faculty who are in as participants now because of all the qualities that we see on the screen. Having the tolerance, having that approach, that attitude of encouraging the students and all the one near them. Able, obviously, because we are able, we are here, we are committed, we are hard workers, dedicated faculty, always efficient and righteous in our work. And so we are teachers, and that is why I want to congratulate all of us for choosing this profession of pharmacy, choosing this profession of a teacher in pharmacy, the lifelong teacher in pharmacy. We have always addressed our children as kids. Now, being for 25 years in academics and then the other 3 years of professional experience, my students are the vice president of maybe Lupin, and then many more, Sun Pharma, and many more like Diggaj companies. But for me, they are yet kids. We all work for the outcome and have never bothered about the income more. Yeah, our weightage always was about the outcome. We are the ones with the passionate approach, passionate attitude towards the teaching. We have always taken a challenge of teaching the young minds, and the young and energetic and inquisitive minds. And we are always constantly, even now after 25 years of teaching, I always still feel, am I a good teacher? If I am taking a class, is my class was satisfactory up to 100%? Did it reach to the children? Did it reach to the students? Could they take something out of it? And if I'm thinking that, and if everybody who is around now, we all are a part of this train the trainer program, that itself indicates that we are always anxious about being good teacher, having that approach, that mindset to be a good teacher. So the saying goes by Jodi Pickle, the fact that you worry about being a good teacher means that you already are one. So here we are. We have always been in the classroom. Okay, what we do, just a recall of what we do as a good teacher or as the best teacher. Get the attention of the students, stimulate the recall of prior knowledge, present the material that is to be learned in the class, provide guidance for learning. After we have completed the class, then elicit the performance, ask them questions, see how whether they have learned. The feedback through the questions, some performance assessment through the questions, followed by some tests in the following class, and then enhance the retention and transfer. This is what we have been doing throughout. Now, every class of us has always been like this. So then what is happening? Why there is no change in the students? We always have this issue now of the attendance. Naga ma'am, Vandana ma'am will agree, there has been the problem of the student attendance because of not developing that intensity of learning in them. So why is this happening? Is it because we are overburdening them with the knowledge? Is there an information overload? Why are they not able to selectively take what is required for them, not only as a curriculum, but as a help or as a guidance for their future endeavors? So why is this happening? We have number of students, a class of 60 or maybe a strength of 100. Every student has a different capacity, and we as teachers have been taking efforts to see to it that every child is benefited, reaching out to them, to their capacity or of brain, and trying to teach them. So still things are not up to the satisfaction for as a teacher, who are good teachers, who are the best teachers. We are always into that state of mind that something more has to be done, something more has to be done. And that is how we are improving ourselves every day on a day-to-day basis. So this is applicable almost to the entire learning process. Basically, I will not be taking too much of time into this because there are more eminent personalities who will be talking. I will directly go to the level, to the subject of pharmacognosy here. So if you're talking about pharmacognosy, or even any other subject for that matter, any learning for that matter, what students gain through the lecture, around 5%, 10% through reading, 20% through the audio visual, 30% through the demonstration, 50% through the discussion, and practice by doing is 75% somehow, right? And then the experiential learning about 90%, or learning by doing again. by the, the 90%. So this is, we have been actually working out, but we just need to focus how well we can design, organize our curriculum based on this division of the learning pyramid. So we are going to apply this to the subject pharmacognosy and the related subject. So how can pharmacognosy be made interesting? Let us reach now or go to the subject pharmacognosy and the related subjects. Now, as per PCI curriculum, we have pharmacognosy and phytochemistry 1 in semester 4, 2 in semester 5, and we have got herbal drug technology in semester 6. We do not have a subject, we do have, but it is the elective. So we need to convince the students about the importance of the subject now only in these 2 years. That is semester 4, second year, semester 5, third year, and the herbal drug technology. So in these 3 semesters, which is say 10 months time, 3.5, 3.5, 3.5. So around 10.5 months time, we need to convince, we need to reach out to the students to understand the importance of pharmacognosy, and let us see how we can do that through the conventional teaching methods and some innovative tools. Now, I will be focusing more, actually speaking, on the conventional teaching methods, because in the 3.5-month semester, that is what is going to help us more. And of course, then we can implement them in terms of projects and then the learning by doing methods, the innovative tools. So let us see why and how we can have the subject more interesting. Yeah, here we are. What is the reason why the appreciation for the subject pharmacognosy, the importance for the subject pharmacognosy is being less? Okay. Does it give feel of botany? Is it giving a feel of botany because we are studying the morphology and the microscopy? Do they feel that, oh, what is this? It's a pure science stream. And why are we learning microscopy? How is it going to help us in the field of pharmacy, where we are into the medicine? We are into the learning of medicine, learning of the physiology, pathophysiology, pharmacology of medicines, drugs. So why microscopy? Is that the reason? Another reason why, the appreciation for pharmacognosy is less. A belief that we are learning the age-old information, which is maybe there in Sushruta, in Sushruta Samhita, Charak Samhita, or Bhao Prakash Nigantu, or Dhanvantri, Indian Materia Medica 1954. So are we learning only those plants, those herbs, that information? Why are we learning in this era? 2023, why are we learning this? Are they of any significance? Why is it been included in the curriculum? Does it really have any pharmaceutical or clinical significance? We need to convince them, we need to educate them on these points. There is a misconception as offbeat subject, nothing related to the pharmaceutical industry. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay. So,
Yes, madam, yes.
okay. So is it an offbeat subject? Does it really have value, or it is just to take the degree and study for 3 semesters and just forget it about? So is that so? So if this is the approach, students are not going to learn, obviously. Yeah, they are not convinced about the applicability. Also in terms of practicals, the students do ask, ma'am, ash value क्यों करना है? Ma'am, why are we doing this extractive value? फायदा क्या है इसका? Microscopy हम क्यों कर रहे हैं? हमको नहीं आता है. So what? Why we are doing this? So is it not important for them to actually explain why we are doing this? This generation is very smart, very intelligent, techno savvy. We need to reason out with them why we are studying, whether in theory or in practicals. It is learning by doing in practicals as well. So we need to really tell them why we are doing this. And I hope everybody must be doing this. But for me, I feel that, if you give them the applicability, they understand. Otherwise, even our children, without reasoning, they are not convinced about any instruction that we give them, to our children as well. And then doubt and insecurity about the job prospects. Yes, this is the most important thing, that is not letting gain that appreciation for pharmacognosy, because once they do the masters, they think that there are no job prospects for pharmacognosy. So we need to tell them what prospects they have. And if you do that, for that, what I feel is we ourselves need to be convinced that yes, we are into a correct subject and we are not in the pharmacognosy by compulsion. We are in pharmacognosy by choice. When I took the admission for masters in pharmacognosy, it was by choice. Thanks to Khandelwal sir for that. He was my teacher, and he made the subject so interesting that I had decided if I'm doing my M.Pharm, I'm doing it in pharmacognosy. So that's how, they need to, we need to first be convinced that yes, we are in the profession, especially with respect to pharmacognosy by choice and not by compulsion. We need to be always fascinated, always eager to learn the pharmacognosy related subject. I'm using this word pharmacognosy again and again because all are the sister branches. Natural product chemistry, herbal drug formulations, everything comes from pharmacognosy. So I will be talking about, you pronunciation, I'm going to use the word as pharmacognosy only. See, now, as I told you, what are the basic problems that students face? Learning microscopy, they feel this is not our job. It is the botanist who should do it. Why should we? And we need to tell them that pharmacognosy is the most vital part of identification of a drug, authentication of a drug, herbal drug. Unless we do that, we are unable to decide, confirm, authenticate the species. And we need to tell them, give them the examples of the genus and the species. I always give examples of, say, Vinca species, Datura species. I tell them how Datura methyl variety fastuosa and Datura stramonium, though belonging to family Solanaceae, both of them, though they look similar except the color of the flowers, both the varieties are similar. Where is the problem? The problem is in the chemical constituents present. And these two, exactly opposite is the proportion of the constituents, isn't it? The Datura methyl variety fastuosa belonging to family Solanaceae has 2/3 of the hyoscine, 1/3 of atropine. The Datura stramonium, even the belladonna, hyoscyamus, these varieties, 2/3 of atropine and 1/3 of hyoscine. If someone is trying to extract out the important component, whether it is hyoscine or atropine, the method would be different. The species we need to choose has to be different. And this species, when they look prima facie similar, the height of the shrub, the bush is same. The color and the shape of the leaves is almost same. The difference happens only in microscopy. So we cannot depend on the botanist. To understand the microscopy, we need to learn ourselves. If we want to go further, take this herb as a raw material for whatever future endeavors we are using, we need to go in for the microscopy. Of course, we can go in for the authentication through the botanical institutes, government authorized. We can get the certification, the specimen number, authentication number. But we need to be convinced in the laboratory itself, at whatever level we go. We need to tell them that even if you are doing it as a curriculum, as a practical of semester 4 or semester 5 or semester 6, or you are using it as M.Pharm project or your B.Pharm project, or you are doing it as a part of your PhD degree, if it is with respect to the herbal drug, you have to have this microscopy done. There is no other option. Nobody is going to accept your communication if you do not have the microscopical studies done and authentication done. One of my students spoke about, I'm trying to have the microscopical video. Let me see if I can get that done. Oh, it's not working. Where I had the video which stated how the tissues could be different. My one of my students, I remember, he told me he got the journal and he drew the tissues, microscopical studies in pharmacognosy. journal, you need to have the pharmacognostic account and you need to have the microscopy drawn, right? And then he drew all the tissues and then he showed me. And then I told him, what have you drawn? I mean, these are only gole spheres. Nothing I can see as the differentiation in the tissues. And then he told me, मैम सारे तो गोले ही है, उसमें चेंज ही क्या है, सब गोले हैं, आप छोटे करो बड़े करो, they are गोले only. But then I had to explain how every tissue is different from the other. If it is, say, parenchyma, there was a video, let me see if I can share, or I will show it later. So there was a nice video which differentiated the parenchyma, the tissues, thin walled tissues with slight intercellular spaces, or collenchyma, which is a cellulosic parenchyma, and then the cell walls are filled with cellulose, and there are intercellular spaces which are also filled with cellulose. And it's different from the parenchyma. Erenchyma is different. Sclerenchyma is different. So you need to tell them, draw it yourself and show them the difference, though they are only spheres and the circles. If you draw them on the board, they get to know what is actually a different tissue, what is their function in the plant, how we teach the anatomy physiology, human anatomy. We have to teach them the anatomy of the plants itself, consider their plants as or similar to humans, and explain them their physiology, their content, their anatomy. Only then they learn, basically. So the tissues are not mere spheres and circles. Every tissue has got its own importance, has got its own existence, its own role, its own function. So we need to explain them. I wish this video could learn. Okay. So what is important? What we need to focus on? Okay. Are we teaching the same ancient literature in pharmacognosy curriculum as I had mentioned earlier? No. What do? We introduce them to the need for identification, as I told you now. Authentication, standardization of the herbs. We need to tell them why this is needed, giving them the examples. What happens if the plant is not identified and we are using it for further future practicals or for whatever endeavors we are using it for? So we need to explain them this, right? We also need to highlight on the active components responsible for the activity. We have to tell them the physiology, mechanism of action, how it is working. If I'm telling them that vinca is used as anti-cancer or vinca alkaloids are used as anti-cancer, I need to tell them the mechanism of how does it work? It works as anti-mitotic. If it is working as anti-mitotic, then what is the mechanism it is giving, right? It is inhibiting the microtubule functioning. It is inhibiting the conversion of protein tubule into microtubules, and that is how it is arresting the cell division. It is arresting the cell division. It is arresting the cell proliferation. So if you explain, we do that in pharmacology. We give all the details, mechanism of action of an individual API or individual drug, but we don't do that in the pharmacognosy. It is needed. If I'm talking about recipe, I have to tell them how it is working as antihypertensive, how it is antagonist to the cholinergic receptors, muscarinic receptors. I need to tell them that. So it is, even say it is the Taxol, I have to tell them how it works as antimitotic, how the compound is working as antagonist, right, at the receptor side. So unless we include the pharmacology into pharmacognosy, they are not going to get that interest in the subject. We need to tell them about the structure activity relationship. I'm going to come up with few examples about the SARs. You must be doing it, but I still feel that I should further talk about it. I'm sure 75% of the faculty of pharmacognosy must be doing it, but I still want to insist on that so that it goes to 100%. Then we need to tell them about the derivatization, how the derivatives, how the analogs, how the semi-synthetic analogs for that matter can be used as a medicine obtained from the phytochemicals, from phytoconstituents. When you tell them that, they are going to learn the basic core pharmacognosy, the herbs, the importance of the herbs, the pharmacognosy of the medicinal plant. They are going to learn that. We need to tell them about repurposing, how the medicine which has been probably as stimulant is now being used as anti-diabetic, isn't it? Or which is being used as antihypertensive is now being used as maybe a sedative or a tranquilizer or the antidepressant. So we need to tell these things. This is what is now the need of the hour, to tell them, to convince them, to give them the information, the knowledge about these aspects so that they start liking, start valuing the subject. Just few examples. We know Rauwolfia serpentina has been used as antihypertensive. If you're talking about the structure activity relationship, isn't it? We have been telling, students were asking me, ma'am, why Rauwolfia abhi to use ही नहीं होता? आप सिखाते हो एंटी हाइपरटेंसिव लेकिन अब कहाँ यूज होता है? So can we convince them? Yes, see, look at this SAR. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. You are audible, madam.
And my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So,
Ma'am, screen is not yet shared. ma'am.
okay, let me start again.
Presentation is not visible.
Now,
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Screen was not visible. ma'am.
Unmute.
just a moment.
Rana. Okay, ऐसा है क्या?
Can you see it now?
Yes, madam.
Yes, yes.
All right. So I was, let me continue where I was. So if I explain them, see, here is the core, here is the change. Okay, if I'm telling them. Now here at carbon number 3, if it is OCH3, it is ricipene. If you remove, make it dimethoxy, and it is desipidine. Now ricipene is a very strong antihypertensive. Can I continue?
Yes, ma'am. You can continue.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Okay, so if I tell them this, that see, just mere change of the functional group can, or the removal or addition of the functional group can reduce down or increase the activity. If I convince them this, they definitely are going to understand that this is the compound. You see, this is the indole group. You have a secologanin group. You have the 4th ring and the 5th ring, and at the 17th position, it is linked with the trimethoxybenzoic acid. This is the whole compound. Imagine how much time it would take to synthesize in the laboratory, right? But it is readily available in the plant. Your job is just to extract it out, establish the method of extraction. Establishing the method, designing the method, developing the method may take a week. But Once the method is established, what you have to do is just use your medicinal chemistry knowledge, add on the functional group, remove the functional group, have the pharmacological screening done, and find out the efficacy, right? So if you can tell them that this such big structure synthesizing in the laboratory is going to take bomb of money and the time and the energy, the effort, the personal everything, can we not make use of this privilege that we have got through the plant? So establish the method of extraction and have the semi-synthetic derivatives prepared and look, go in for this pharmacological screening. Is that possible? So then when he asked me that, ma'am, sir, राहुल फिया तो यूज ही नहीं होता अभी, फिर हमको क्यों सिखा रहे हो? So you need to tell them that yes, this is the reason you are getting valuable phytoconstituents of the plant. You may not use them directly as a drug, as a medicine, but yes, you can use it as a raw material, as a precursor for synthesizing the analogs, which can in future be useful as the most effective, right? With the better efficacy, less toxicity, and the cost effectiveness. That is possible, right? So if you have some examples like this, we can definitely go in and convince the students for and they increase their liking towards the subject. See here, the same thing which I was talking, resinamide here. Adding just a double bond here is going to increase the toxicity, also the efficacy. But then can we not work on reducing down the toxicity and improving the efficacy by same the permutations and combinations, changing the elimination or the addition of the bonds? It is possible. So this raw material is in abundance. The knowledge, information, the data is in abundance. We just need to make it available to lift the pharmacognosy applicabilities is what I feel. Another very important example that I feel I must tell you about the Vinca alkaloids. You all know. Now, I will not take too much of time into this chemistry, but if you see, we all know. Vincristine, formyl group at one position, vinblastine, methyl group at this position. Vincristine, a wonderful anti-cancer drug. Vinblastine, you replace the formyl by methyl and the efficacy is reduced by 10 times, but so is reduced the neurotoxicity is being reduced. And then vinblastine is being used for the preparation of these semi-synthetic analogs. If you see vindicine, it is the D-acetyl vinblastinamide. If you see, it's the D-acetyl. Instead of acetyl group, it is the hydroxyl group, and it is the amide that has been attached. Beautiful anti-cancer activity with minimal of toxicity, and hence could be given to the geriatrics and the children or childhood leukemias. It has been in the clinical 3 trials now for the development of medicine. Look at this vinorelbine. Here is another compound that you see. OH is been removed. There is just an anhydro, one double bond added here. Okay, so this is called as anhydrovinblastine. This is vinorelbine, right? So this again is been used in the testicular carcinomas, ovarian cancers, right? So this is all okay.
मी स्वतःहून अनम्यूट नाही करू शकत. मी आता म्यूट आहे, पण मी स्वतःहून अनम्यूट नाही होत. म्हणून जसं माझं आता याचं सेशन
Am I audible?
ओके.
Digambar sir, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible, ma'am.
Okay. I was looking. Okay, and so is my screen. Right? In online lectures, there is little anxiety about whether I'm just talking without nobody listening. So, is my screen okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
All right, yes.
Lavina, ma'am, please mute yourself.
Yeah. That's the
So
problem.
Is the Vinca alkaloids. They are very close to my heart. I am working on it, and I will be working on this plant. You can see it's the ornament plant in the garden, abundantly available. I think we have a raw material. We need to make use of this for the projects as well of the students. So see, Win Christian has come long way from 1954 till date. Here is the actual medicine that has come out of Vincristin. This is vinflunin, which is the fluorinated derivatives of vinblastin. Right now, used by the European Medicine Agency, manufactured by European Medicine Agency, and introduced as an injection, a concentrated injection given in the infusion form as a derivative of vinflunin D-tartrate. The name is Jevlor. 25 milligrams per ml is the vial that is being used and given as the infusion. So this is not the synthetic derivative. You see, this is a semi-synthetic derivative which has come from vinblastin. So if we give these updates to the students, I am sure they will get convinced that yes, the pharmacognosy needs to be studied and taken seriously. So we have to find out, as teachers, we need to find out what are the compounds, semi-synthetic derivatives of the phytochemicals of the plants that are in the syllabus and are introduced, whether in the or actual in the market for or regarded as medicine or in the clinical phase 3 trial where they are. So we need to update ourselves with this information, give it to the students, and then students, I'm sure, will value the subject as a core subject of pharmacy. Same is with strychnine and brucine from the Nux vomica. These compounds, look at the derivatives that are in the trials now. See, number of around 23 alkaloids of and the analogs of vincristin and vinblastin are right now in the trials, and I'm very sure that the compounds are going to be introduced soon. Vincristin, we all know, such a it was used as a rodent poison. Yeah, it's regarded as a poisonous seed. So the students are going to ask you teach them to Strychnos nux vomica belonging to family Loganacinaceae, and then you give them the pharmacognosy and then their microscopy, and they are going to ask you, ma'am, ye poison hai. Kyun padha rahe ho humko? We need to tell them, convince them that yes, these are so many analogs now in the market in phase 2, and you can be one of them who will be preparing the derivative and discovering the derivative of this, which could be used as a medicine in future. Then they are going to value our subject as pharmacognosy. Is it off bit? Is there no relevance? See, in the practicals, you teach them extraction. Yeah, we need to tell them why extraction is important, why the method needs to be developed, why the method needs to be established. If we correlate to the applicability, as I told you before, it works, right? They will understand, and then they will seriously go in for these extraction procedures, practical. As I told you, give them the ethnomedical data. Okay, tell them to work on the ethnomedical, or ethnobotany or the ethnopharmacology of the plant. Give them the importance of the authentication, as I told you, importance of the extraction, importance of the isolation, characterization, analytical chemistry is involved, characterization, isolation, purification, again, analytical chemistry involved. Yeah, then as I told you, you have SARs, you have the compound isolated, you want to make the derivatives, medicinal chemistry is involved. You are going to go in for these pharmacological screening, biological screening, pharmacology is involved. So the subject pharmacognosy is not alone. Rather, it is a part of every core branch of pharmacy. This is what we need to convince them. Only then probably the interest can be generated, doubled, can be increased in the students. This I will not talk about because now we will be running behind the schedule. We all know pharmacognosy in drug discovery and development. You people have studied, must have attended many lectures on this. You yourself must have been a part of the drug discovery. So this I will not explain, just skip it off, right? there has been a tremendous research happening on the anti-cancer derivatives, and the same line of work, the flowchart as it suggests, is being undertaken even by the students. Now the students are also working on the projects, final year project. PCI curriculum has introduced the project, first the practice school in semester 7 and the research project in semester 8. And you will agree with me that minimum 50% of the projects of final year B Farm are on the herbal drugs as raw material. So, I mean, there is nothing bad in it, there is nothing wrong in it. But if this is so, then can we convince the students that yes, you can go ahead with this project, and this project report is definitely going to help you stand out when you go in for the interviews, when you go in for further studies, whether you are going for the masters abroad, this is going to be your asset. So we need to explain them. We need to guide them for the projects which are definitely going to find some outcome out of it. I understand it's just the one semester or maybe 2 semesters together, but a lot of work can happen in the 2 semesters, and we can definitely tell them and guide them into their projects wholeheartedly. This is what is important. Now, I will be coming to the end of my presentation by just talking about some innovative methods and the tools that can be utilized for uplifting the subject value, pharmacognosy, right? Building trust about the subject, as I have been telling you throughout the session, important. Building trust about the subject is very, very, very crucial. And there plays a role of subject teacher, core subject teacher. The teacher, he or she, needs to impart give the information in the classroom, outside the classroom, about the subject, and the student definitely is going to develop that interest. It is important to convince the validity of each component of the curriculum, whatever is in theory, in the practicals. It's important that we need to, that they understand that yes, if this has been included in the curriculum, it has its own importance, and it needs to be studied seriously, and how it is going to benefit you in the longer run. You can add the animations. Now at this stage and at this age, I have not been very expert at having the animations, but I do try some. So extraction process animation, microscopy animations will definitely generate that interest among the students in the smart classroom boards. It's possible. So use that, so the students like. What I do is, even for the microscopy, even now, if I am taking a class, I do use the animations, but I like to draw it on the board myself. So when you draw it on the board yourself, each layer of the microscopy of a part of a plant, and the way they draw it, that creates the interest. And they will follow you as you are drawing it on the board. I'm sure it's time consuming, but then that fixes in your child's mind, and then if the question as such is asked for the microscopy, they are able to draw that microscopy without even doing it, or learning it by heart. They can do it because they've already drawn it into the notebook the way you have drawn it on the board. So this works well. It had been working well for all these years for me, though time consuming. We can take extra hours if required, but this helps for sure. Videos, yes. Use the videos, like how I had a video of all the tissues drawn nicely, but I couldn't play it right now. But then videos, now in every college, there are smart classrooms. I don't think there's any college left now which do not have the LCD boards, the mic system, and then the smart classrooms, right? So you can make use of those smart classrooms to develop the content, learning material, which is going to interest the students. Have the field visits, industrial visits. These are all now known facts, but I think I should talk about it. So you have field visits, industrial visits. Take them to the herbal drug industry. Let the interest be generated. Take them to some startups. if you have your friends, colleagues, students, like what I do, I have these students who are into herbal drug industry. I take my students there. There already my student has been doing well, so they get convinced, okay, ma'am ka student is doing so well, तो चलो हम भी कुछ कर सकते हैं ये फील्ड में. Live examples are very important for this generation. They don't believe in hypothesis now. What they want is the results, the evidences. So we need to give them evidences, basically, right? Give them short-term projects, as I told you. The semester 8 research projects are blessing in disguise, and give them the projects and let them learn the analytical part of it, the pharmacognosy part of it, the chemistry part of it. Give a project which will involve all the core branches of pharmacy. Very skillfully you have to design the project, which is just lasting for maybe 2 semesters or 1 semester, and then involve all the core branches of pharmacy. See if that can work. If that works, the child gets the feel that yes, pharmacognosy is not some alien or some different entity of the world, it is a part of pharmacy. So we need to design the projects very skillfully, very carefully, giving them that importance that involve all the branches, so that they develop that interest in doing the project as well, not just copy pasting from somewhere and submitting at your own project. That shouldn't happen. Give them some problems. Problem based learning now is an integral part of NAC also, NB also, all the university requirements also. But it is important also. I mean, not because there is a mandate कि वहाँ पे छड़ी है regulatory bodies का इसके लिए हमको करना है. No, we have to do it because students learn by the problem based learning. Give them some problem related to the herbal drugs, whether it is related to the regulatory issues or whether it is related to the solvent recovery analytical issues, whether it is related to the biological screening, whatever is the problem. Introduce them to the problem and ask them to find the solutions. That is how they learn. So if we had more time, or maybe sometime later, I can give you few examples of the problems that can be introduced and how the child can learn out of it. Then inquiry based learning again. Give them some task. Give them to make, to find out or design the formulations, cosmetics especially, and then see how they come up with innovative ideas. And, you will be amazed to see the innovative ideas that, their brain gives. And it definitely gives us also a big learning. So you do that, okay? As I told you, make them interact with your own alumni who has been doing well with respect to the herbals, and they get convinced. You don't have to do anything. Take them to the industry where your students are working, your alumni is working. Just take them there, let them interact with each other, and they get convinced. Your job is made easy. And last, applicability in terms of startups. If you can tell them the startups where they can start with, right? Herbal drug industries, analytical labs, job prospects also, regulatory divisions, they can take up their jobs there or start their own unit of their own after taking certain certifications into that particular domain, right? If it in analytical labs, let them do the certifications anyways in the national education policy, which emphasizes on the skill-based learning. During your teaching, if you can help them or introduce them certain skill-based courses related to the pharmacognosy subject, or related to phytochemistry, or related to the natural product chemistry or herbal drug technology, introduce them to such skill-based courses, let them learn, and I'm sure they will develop that interest, right? Regulatory divisions, again, there are so many certification courses. There are so many MOOC, NPTEL courses. Let them enroll to those courses and see if, their approach towards the subject changes. Healthcare divisions with IT support. There are so many healthcare, so many giant companies like HCL, WNS, Synapse, so many of them who have started their division with, the digital marketing or the clinical data analysis management. HCL has its own herbal cosmetic industrial unit separately, and an amazing work has been happening there. So this is a new job avenue which has been opened for the students at the master's level. Of course, at the graduation level, it is slowly opening the requirements. So these are various avenues apart from just going into the industry and taking up a job in the manufacturing or quality control. They can go into the clinical data management. They are going, TCS hai, Cognizant hai, they are doing all this, right? Wipro hai. But companies like giant companies like HCL have introduced the division with the IT support, and an amazing work has been happening there. So you can connect with those people, find out what has been happening, arrange the lecture, and then they will be able to communicate, and student will understand what are the now new avenues which are now open for the students rather than the conventional ones. There are startups that they can go in for, nutraceuticals, sports medicine, supplements, cosmetic industry, and of course the academics. We need to motivate the students to come in academics also. Now all the principals will agree there is a deficiency in pharmacognosy faculty also, and I think people like us who are more interested in the subject, passionate about the subject, not only interested, passionate about the subject, will definitely enter. If they are into the academics, the subject is going to get the facelift for sure. Passionate teachers of pharmacognosy is the need of the hour, and if we get them, definitely the subject gets the facelift. So this is what I wanted to talk about. Okay, I may not have given the innovative tools as such, but then there are all big eminent personalities who will be talking about that. This whatever I spoke was deep from my heart, what I felt, the urge that how the subject can get the importance, the recognition, the lift into the pharmacy curriculum. This always has been deep in my heart, and I always like to talk about it. So innovative tools, you are going to learn many more into the subsequent lectures. So not in pharmacognosy much, but this is what I thought I should be communicating with you. I think I am right in time. So thank you very much for the patient listening, and happy learning and
Thank you,
teaching
ma'am.
to everyone. I again thank Dr. Anagha ma'am for giving me this opportunity to open up my heart. I'm very touchy about subject pharmacognosy, you see. So I have been talking and talking and talking. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak on the topic related to the facelift of the subject. I also thank APTI Women's Forum, respected Dr. Patravale ma'am, Vandana ma'am, for giving me this opportunity, for hearing me. And Vandana ma'am, I would like to ask the feedback later from you about the subject and what I must add more. So thank you very much, all of you. Thank you to all the participants for the patient listening. I can take if the time permits, I can take up the questions, if any, or maybe then you can just email me or message me and I will answer your questions, if any. Yeah? Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for covering majority of the aspects of pharmacognosy. Ma'am, you have motivated our trainers how to become a good teacher, good and passionate teacher, and even focused on how to apply learning pyramid to make pharmacognosy interesting. You have even covered the various conventional as well as innovative tools and techniques which should be applied, and even focused on the chemistry, pharmacochemistry part, and the mechanism of action of various drugs which are being used in pharmacognosy, and importance of learning microscopy. I hope that our trainers, especially cognosy teachers, have been surely benefited from this session. Now the session is open for the queries. If any trainers have any queries, can drop their queries in the chat box.
Madam, chat box is unable, is not available.
It's not available. Anaga ma'am,
Yeah, I
Am
will
I-
just check. Just give me a second. Huh? Just give
Okay,
me a
okay.
second.
It's available now. It's available.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See, oh, just a moment. Ma'am, can you please read the question? I can't see from my side,
Okay, ma'am.
if any.
No,
If
ma'am.
there is any question. No, okay.
Still, there are no any questions.
Okay.
Dear participants, if you don't have any questions right now, please feel free to mail us the questions, which we will forward to Ruxana ma'am, and she will definitely answer all the questions which we will forward to you. So many times it happens that after effects we find out like there are certain queries. So please feel free to mail us. Thank you, Ruxana. Thank you.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
now I
you.
take opportunity to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our honorable speaker, Dr. Ruxana Pinjari, for such an informative session. I am sure that this session will be greatly beneficial for our trainers. And once again, thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anagha ma'am, should I start with the second session?
Yes, please do, please.
Okay. Now, without any further ado, I will proceed with our second session. The respected speaker for our today's second session is Dr. Sunila Dhaneshwar ma'am. She is the director of Amity Institute of Pharmacy, Deputy Dean of Research, Science and Technology, and Head Directorate of Research and Publication at Amity University, Uttar Pradesh, Lucknow. Dr. Sunila has completed her B.Pharm from Department of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Nagpur University, and M.Pharm and PhD from Devi Ahilya Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, and was awarded Senior Research Fellowship from Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, New Delhi. Dr. Sunila Dhaneshwar is a professor of pharmaceutical chemistry with 27 years of teaching, 32 years of research, 2 years of industrial, and 4 years of international consultancy experience. Over the last 32 years, she has pursued research that primarily focuses on drug repurposing and designing novel products for various inflammatory diseases. In recognition for her contribution to the field of inflammatory bowel disease, she recently got featured on the cover page of World Journal of Gastroenterology USA, which is very rare honor for an Indian women scientist. Dr. Sunila has authored 5 books chapters and has more than 90 research publications in renowned journals and 150 conference presentations, which have been appreciated through more than 35 best paper and poster awards. Her contribution to the work to the field has been recognized with numerous prestigious awards. Ma'am has guided 60 M.Pharm and 12 PhD students and has completed projects with funding from AICTE, UGC, ICMR, and DHT worth rupees 1.50 crore. She has received several grants for conducting seminars, symposia, and conferences and has received travel grants from INSA, UGC, AICTE, DHT to attend and present her research at international conferences at Manchester, UK, Naples, Italy, Washington, D.C., USA, New Orleans, USA, and Malaysia. Dr. Sunila is a member of various professional bodies and also member of various renowned organizations. She is on the editorial board of World Journal of Gastroenterology, USA, Indian Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Pharmacologia UK, EC Gastroenterology and Digestive System UK, and EPTA Women's Forum newsletter. Ma'am is reviewer of more than 30 international and 2 national journals. Dr. Sunila has delivered more than 150 invited and plenary talks on varied research topics at national and international conferences and symposia. She was also invited to record video lectures on medicinal chemistry for an educational mobile application for pharma students by Teach Global Company, Hyderabad. Now, I request Dr. Sunila Dhaneshwar ma'am to start the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lovina, for that kind introduction. Am I audible?
Yeah, ma'am, you are.
The volume is all right, or?
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect,
Yeah,
ma'am, perfect.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr.
Hello,
all
ma'am.
the faculty members of pharma profession. And it's always a pleasure to connect with all of you and share whatever small experience I have in the field. The topic that has been chosen for today's
Hello, Anaka, ma'am. Am I audible?
hello,
Huh.
hello.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Hello,
Hello.
ma'am.
Yeah, sorry, there was a network issue. I was
Yeah, yeah.
out of the meeting.
Okay.
So thank you, everyone, all the organizing team members for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to connect with you and share my experience. The topic that I have selected for today's deliberation is of great importance to all the faculty members, especially those who are at the start of the career, because all of us understand and agree and have accepted that in today's world, a teacher is expected to be a multitasker. Teaching might be the primary job in which a teacher is supposed to be involved in, but over and above teaching, a teacher is expected to do research, to do all the administrative work which is given, manage the events, organize the events, so on and so forth, accreditations, rankings. So how the balance is to be struck between all these tasks which are expected from a teacher. And amongst all these tasks, the most important one is publications. It was said earlier that if you want to get promoted and climb the ladder in academics, then you have to publish or you will perish. Now we have come a long way from publish or perish. Now the organizations and the management is becoming more and more demanding, and they not only expect us to publish, but they expect us to publish in Scopus Index journals or in UGC CARE journals or in journals which are SCI indexed or Web of Science index. So the demands are increasing, and where we find ourselves against all these expectations. So publish and perish, patent or perish, there are different taglines which are used by the management to encourage and to motivate the faculty members to perform in a particular manner. Now, the topic that I have selected, therefore, for today's deliberation is scientific writing and plagiarism. I'll share my content with you. Is it visible?
Ma'am, still not. Yeah, yeah, ma'am. It's visible now, ma'am.
Yeah, let me put it on the slideshow mode. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, ma'am.
So with that preamble, let us start our deliberation on scientific writing, and a small part will follow on plagiarism. So the scientific writing is different from storytelling. It is different from telling jokes. It is different from creative writing. Scientific writing is a technical form of writing, and it is meant to communicate the scientific information or the results of your research to other scientists or the scientific community. Now, your primary audience, who is going to read what you are going to publish, is the scientific community. And therefore, it is very, very important that the language that you use is not a colloquial language, but it's a very, very technical language. The goal of scientific writing is, of course, to communicate the scientific information, but it should be communicated in such a manner that it is presented in a very lucid, clear, and concise manner. The audience and the purpose with which you are drafting an article to be published must be kept in mind. We will take the examples of the purpose as well as how your narrative changes based on the audience. Like I said, that scientific writing is not at all similar to a storytelling. You cannot use flowery, ambiguous, unrealistic, too much of wordy or redundant language in a scientific writing. Statistically significant results are the only ones which we have to communicate. Any results which are not statistically analyzed are not acceptable to the scientific community or to the publishers or the editors of the journal. This especially I'm talking about the original research article. So the question is it like storytelling? And if you write a story instead of using technical language, then what happens? It simply doesn't work. Because a scientific article is very, very systematic, very, very structured. The start and the end of a scientific article is very, very predictable. You cannot be changing the end of your article. You cannot be changing the conclusion of your article, whereas that liberty you have in storytelling. So it is not, and it cannot be written in a style of a novel or a story or a poem. It is a lot of hard work, a lot of toiling goes into coming up with a very, very good quality scientific publication which you are about to communicate and which eventually gets accepted in a peer-reviewed, highly prestigious, impacted journal. So while communicating the research, what are the various options that we have as an academician or a scientist or a researcher? Oral communications, all of us are well aware of various talks, seminars, oral presentations. Whereas the written communications, we have ample number of opportunities and different types of written communications. Research papers, that means original research article, which can be a regular length article or it can be a short or rapid communication. The difference between the original full length article and a short rapid communication is that in rapid communication, you generally communicate a preliminary kind of study, which is of great importance to the scientific community. The work is in progress, but you feel that, oh, this particular part of my work should be immediately communicated to the scientific community. Such kind of work is generally presented in short or rapid communications. Review articles, all of us are very, very well aware of, because most of us, unless our original research starts, we generally start our journey towards publication by publishing the review articles. So there are different types of review articles. We are mostly involved in drafting a narrative kind of review, whereas there are other types of review articles like a systematic kind of review, which involves or doesn't involve meta-analysis, umbrella type of review article, and a regular narrative type. Now, what is the difference? In systematic kind of review, you target at a particular question and your information you collect from individual studies. And the most important aspect of a systematic review is that you have to apply the statistics to these studies when you compile the data which is presented by individual research groups and then analyze that so that it is in the form of a review. It is not your original work. It is the work done by someone else, but you are statistically analyzing it and then presenting it in the form of either meta-analysis or a systematic review. In systematic review, there is one more important aspect, that you apply the inclusion and exclusion criteria to very well-defined manner. That means when you start the review process and when you start the literature survey, that is the time when you clearly define what are the things that you are going to include in your review and what are the things you are not going to touch at all. That is called the exclusion criteria. You also have to define which are the various abstracting services, databases that you are going to search. So everything about these reviews is a very, very systematic approach. Invited articles can be original research articles, they can be short communications, they can be reviews also. So when you get an invitation from the editor of a journal, which is of course based on your expertise in the field, that's a very prestigious thing to be invited to contribute an article. Reports, thesis, dissertations, we are very, very well versed with. Letters to the editors are generally written by experts in the field who have something to say about the articles which an editor has published in a particular issue of a journal. There might be something that an author or a scientist wants to say, which is in line with whatever has been reported, in accordance or supporting whatever has been reported, but many a times it is something which is absolutely contradictory to whatever has been reported by a certain group of researchers. So letters to editors is another way. Many a times the letters to editors are also comprising of the very latest developments in the field. Poster presentations, all of us do, our students do. The standard operating procedures, protocols to be written, technical notes, conference proceedings or conference presentations, and finally the books and the chapters. Now here I would, as teachers, you should be aware what is the difference between review and a book chapter. Both of them are actually reviews, isn't it? The review article, and for a book chapter also, you are collecting information and compiling it in the form of a chapter. The major difference that many of us may not be able to understand is that the number of citations that a review article gets is always more than the number of citations that you get for a book chapter. Both of them are almost at par with each other. And the more the number of citations you have, the higher will be your H index. Now, identifying the purpose of your writing, like purpose of jokes is to make people laugh. Purpose of textbooks is to teach, to refer to. The purpose of professional scientific writing then is to share the original findings and to explain what is the significance of your results, how your research is going to be of great importance to the society. So the purpose, on the other hand, if you talk about writing the scientific, proposal, submitting the proposals or projects to get the grants from the funding agencies, then your purpose is to convince the authorities so that they find your work novel, they find your work innovative enough so that they can approve your proposal and release or sanction you the funding. So here the purpose differs. The purpose of an original article and a review article is also different. So the purpose of a review article is to make available at one place all the possible literature which is available for the last decade or last to last decade, whichever time frame you are projecting in your review article. Now, I'm just giving you one example to emphasize on my point that how you present and the tone in which your article goes depends on the audience or the readers. Imagine that you met with a car accident. Now, when you recite this car accident to your friends, you are going to give all the details. Even if it was your mistake, you are going to tell your friends that it was my mistake or someone else. But when you tell the same incident to your parents, you are going to reserve certain facts. You are not going to be upfront and tell everything to your parents. Whereas to insurance company, your story is going to be totally different because you want them to reimburse whatever repairs or the loss is there. Likely, in scientific writing also, who is your audience greatly impacts what you say and how you say, even if the topic at hand is same. So let's talk about a journal article. So when you are writing an original, can you please mute yourself? I think someone's mic is on. Thank you. So a journal article, the audience or the readers want to know how you have conducted your experiments, then what are the implications of your work. I request the
Hello.
attendee,
Hello.
please mute yourself.
Yeah, this Vivo V2118. Can you just mute yourself, please? I'm sorry, ma'am.
Yeah.
Please proceed.
Oh, no, it's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay. So in an original article, the readers want to know how you have conducted the experiments, if you have given the procedures in the details, the results, how you have interpreted the results, and what is the outcome. Whereas in the research proposal, the committee or the reviewers, they want to know, they want to get convinced that your research is really important to be funded and it is of lot of importance to the society. Now in posters, if you give a full length paper and present all the data that you have, then the people who are attending the conference may not be interested in stopping at your poster and listening to what you have to say, because when you are presenting a poster, you have to give the summary and not all the details. Now, the tone of writing, this is something with which all of us struggle, and especially those who are indulging themselves at writing for the first time, drafting the papers, it is really a big struggle. Believe me, it takes a lot of time to find your own style of writing. Till you find that style, you have to depend on other styles. You have to keep on reading the papers which have been published in your area, and you will find one particular paper with which you can relate. Okay, this is the style I like, and this is the style I might follow when I draft my article. Now, the tone of writing is very important for effective communication. It always has to be very formal tone to maintain the objectivity. Now, I have found many people, when they present something, even the students, I always object when they say, my formulation, my prodrug, my derivative. They put this adjective behind the product or the formulation that they have developed. This is not the way to present. Your tone has to be formal to maintain the objectivity. And always, most of the times, the tense that is preferred is a passive tense. It is never the active tense. So if I have to say that I have done this experiment in so and so manner, instead of saying I, if I say that experiment was carried out in so and so manner, that is what I'm saying, to use the passive tense instead of active. So more focus should be on what is done rather than who has done. I, my research group, my scholars, my students, all these things have to be avoided, and you have to present your writing in a passive tense and more objectively in a formal tone. Now, there are examples here cited for informal versus a formal tone. Now, personal pronouns, like I told you, we analyzed. Instead of that, you say it was analyzed. Now, can't, won't. We have a habit of using colloquial language, using the so-called WhatsApp lingo, the so-called texting lingo that we use short forms, like we consider that anyone can very well understand what we mean to say. This is the difference. It's a technical writing we are talking about, so we will not use the contractions like can't, won't. Instead of that, we have to use cannot and will not. The colloquial expressions like a lot of samples. Instead of that, you say many samples. Totally, you say completely. At the same time, you may say simultaneously. A very interesting topic, you say it is very compelling topic. Instead of saying this experiment was done to look into something, you say the purpose was to investigate the effect of so and so on so and so. These are just few examples. Now, here I'm focusing mainly on the content of a review article and a research article because the time available is less. So you may find that in a review article and a research article, there are many similarities and very less differences. Title, running title is optional. So I will talk about the title in details. What is a running title is different than a title. It is a group of 5 or 6 words, which is different than the title, which is to attract the readers towards your work. Keywords, I will be talking in details. Abstract, there are different types of abstracts. Abstract, which is a regular abstract, a structural abstract, or a structured abstract, and third type is a graphical abstract. We'll talk in details. Introduction, conclusion. In a review article, you directly jump from the introduction to the conclusion. With, of course, after introduction, there will be many subheadings and sub-subheadings, but then there will not be any materials and methods and result and discussion. These sections will be missing in a review article. Whereas after introduction, the materials and methods and result and discussion become the main content of your original research article. Acknowledgements, conflict of interest, funding, whether you received funding or not, what is the contribution of each and every author. This is the latest that the journals expect from us. I will talk about it later. And finally, the references. So you will find the difference in the review article and research article is only the materials and methods and result and discussion. Now, there are certain journals where the titles of such journals is like, for example, letters in medicinal chemistry or bioorganic and medicinal chemistry letters. Now here in such type of letters type of journals, if you are trying to communicate your original research article, there the pattern is totally different for a research article also. There you give the introduction and directly after introduction, your materials, methods, result discussion, everything flows after the introduction without giving the subtitles. You present all these things in paragraphs, but don't give the subtitles. That is the format which is followed in the journals, where in the title you will find letters. Now coming to the title should not be very long. It should have all those possible words which are going to describe the content of your paper accurately. Do not mention anything which you have not performed in your study. Always omit the unnecessary words. Always omit the repetitive, redundant words. Make your title very crisp, very interesting, appealing to the readers, and attractive. It also can have a good balance of what are the latest technologies or the latest thrust areas in which the research is going on in your particular area. Now, if the inferences made in the paper are limited to a particular region, if it's a survey kind of thing, or your sample size is from a particular area, then it is always better to mention the name of that region in your title. Region can be the city, it can be the state, it can be a particular ethnicity. These things, if they come in your title, it attracts a very, very focused group of readers towards your article. Keywords have got a lot of importance, and I don't know whether we really understand the importance of the keywords. These are the important words that focus on your work. When we are asked to select keywords for our article, we tend to select those words which are appearing in our title. So what you are doing actually is that you are not taking the full use, making the full use of the opportunity to widen the scope of your article. Please understand why keywords are important. These are the words which, if someone types in Google, is going to take the reader to your article. So in keywords, you generally have to select such words which are synonymous to the words which are appearing in the title. That means you are widening the scope of your article. If you write the same words which are appearing, for example, I will give you the example that HPTLC analysis. Now, if I write HPTLC as the keyword, then whoever is typing HPTLC will come to my paper. But whoever is writing densitometric analysis will never come to my paper, because Google is not going to take that person or reader to my paper because the keyword is not matching. But if my title says HPTLC and if my keyword says densitometry, densitometric analysis, densitogram, then I am introducing two keywords instead of one. So anyone who searches an article related to HPTLC analysis and densitometric analysis, both can be guided to my paper, and keywords are the ones which are making your article accessible to the readers. These keywords are being used by the indexing and abstracting services. So if you go to the Scopus site and if you type a keyword which is not appearing in your title or in your keywords, that your paper is never going to be searched or being accessed by a reader. The reader will be clueless. Oh, such type of good paper was available, but I never got to read it. Why? Because your keywords were redundant. They were not following, or they were not offering a wide scope to the readers. I hope you have understood the importance of the keywords. In addition to the keywords which are provided in the title, you have to give many more synonyms, or even, sometimes, like in your title, it is appearing Mumbai. In my keywords, if I give Bombay, anyone who is searching a survey conducted in Mumbai or in Bombay, both of them will be taken to your article. So this is what I mean by, broadening the scope of your article by introducing or selecting important keywords. Now, this may increase the ease with which interested readers can locate your article, and correct keywords indirectly are definitely going to help you in increasing your citations, because the more the number of people who are locating your article, more is the readership of your article, more chances are there that your work will be cited in their future papers, and that gives you more citations, and that will definitely help you in increasing your H index. Abstract is different from conclusion. So it is something which will enable a reader to identify what is the basic content of your paper in a very quick manner, in a very, very accurate manner. What exactly is the gist of your work that you are going to present in your abstract? Now, this also determines for a reader whether this paper is relevant to me or my interest or not. It should concisely state what are the objectives of your work, what is the scope, background of your investigation, which may not be obvious from the title, and results, and what are the highlighted conclusions of your work, or what is the principal outcome of your work. We have to avoid giving too many details on methodology in an abstract. Abstracts are always restricted by number of words, 200 to 250 at the most. So don't waste your words on something which is irrelevant. Focus on giving maximum information in a very concise, crisp manner, following the word limit. So you have to convey all the essential details of your paper in very, very few words. Now coming to regular abstract, we know it is just like a paragraph. It doesn't have any subtitles, but definitely the various parts which are invisible in an abstract is that you give a background information in 2-3 lines. You talk about what is the aim or the objective of the work. Then you talk about in very short manner the methodology or a particular model that you have used, or an inducer of a disease, or a particular methodology that you have followed. Give the results and highlight of your work or the outcome of your work. Now, if it is a structured abstract, in a structured abstract, what is done is that you will find, or rather you have to give the subtitles. So it starts with background/introduction. It is followed by the objective of your work, then methodology, result, and conclusion. So in the abstract itself, the editor wants you to put clear-cut subtitles, and the same abstract which you had written in a paragraph manner can be converted into a structured abstract. Graphical abstract is very different than a regular abstract or a structured abstract. In graphical abstract, what you do is the gist of your paper you are presenting in a graphical manner. Flowchart, either a flowchart or the graphs or the graphical representation of important results, some histopathology slide, or you want to show the flow of the methodology or how your work has progressed from the background objectives to the final outcome, you are free to give any kind of graphical representation of your work through graphical abstract. Now, graphical abstract is used by most of the renowned journals for indexing purpose. In olden days, just a minute, I'm in talk. Hello, am I audible? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So in the graphical abstract is generally used by the indexing of the journal. In earlier days, the abstract the index of the journal only used to give the title of the paper and the authors. These days, the index of any journal or the issue of a journal uses the graphical abstracts. Means it gives the title, it gives the names of the authors, co-authors, corresponding author, their affiliation, and it is followed by the graphical representation of your work, which is more appealing and creates more interest in the readers. Now, the question here is, what is the important tool that you can use for graphical abstract? Please remember, do not use the copyrighted images from internet. I'm giving you the details of a very, very good software which is available for free, which I have not included in my presentation. Please make a note. It is called BioRad. Let me see if I can write it for you here. Yes, The name of the software, many of you must be using it, I don't know, but I will give it to you. Just use it for fun. You will enjoy the process. You will enjoy the process of drawing even the cells, the tissues, the organs, the mice or the rats or the guinea pigs. All the features are available in this biorad, and this you can use to create flowcharts, to create graphical abstracts for free. Introduction, not much to be said about this. This is the beginning of your article. This is also called as a background of your work. Now here you have to establish the significance of your work in the current perspective, how your work is important in the current times, why there was a need to conduct this particular study, what did you envisage, what was the hypothesis, what kind of literature survey you have done in order to prove the novelty of your work. So in the introduction, you give the background, you introduce in a lucid manner to the readers your topic of research. Then you also mention or state what is the available literature on this particular topic, what is the work which is already published and is available to the scientific community. That also you have to cite here, which states that even though so much of work has been done in this particular area, what I am proposing or what I am presenting here is novel and it has not been done to the best of my knowledge by anyone else. If you are able to do this, your chances of getting your work published and getting the approval from the editor increases multifold. So cite your own work if it is relevant. Editors do encourage the authors to cite their own work, because when the paper goes to the reviewer and the tools which are made available to the reviewer, they try to find out what are the works that you have authored previously, and if they find similar kind of work which you have not cited in your own paper, then they might object that why you are not citing your own work. So very, very relevant, not all, but if it is relevant to the topic at hand, definitely you have to cite your own work also. Clearly state the scope of your work and the objectives, and please do not write any conclusions or methods or results in the introduction. For that, we have got separate sections. And as I told, the introduction is sometimes also called as the background. Many times we fail to mention about the results of patent search. Not only literature survey, but patent search these days is also, it also plays an important role, and you should search the patents so that you are sure that the work that you are doing is novel. Because if your work is not novel, the chances of it getting published are very, very fiscal. Materials and methods. Now, generally, this section goes together, and we fail many times to mention very, very important details of the resources that we have used to procure all the materials, chemicals, special chemicals, of course. You are not supposed to give the details of all the solvents and all the small, excipients or all in the papers, but definitely the special chemicals. If I am using 2,4,6-trinitrobenzene sulfonic acid to induce the ulcerative colitis, I have to mention the brand from where I have purchased it, because it is very important for other research group. If they want a similar study to undertake, then they would like to know from where I have procured it. So the reproducibility of your results and disclosing the important aspects of the methodology and the materials of your work is of utmost importance. So the materials, the instruments, the make, the brand, place of work, most importantly, the ethical clearance. If you are doing in vivo studies, you do have to give your institutional animal ethics committees clearance and the approval number. If it's a CPC ACA approved laboratory, you have to mention that. If your work involves the human work on the human beings, collection of samples, hospital, even if it's a survey and you are asking questions to the healthy volunteers, still the human ethics committee's clearance and approval is required. Please keep that in mind. So the ethical clearance, even if the informed consent, if it's a clinical work, it's a survey kind of work, and you have a questionnaire, it has to be vetted by the ethical committee and approval has to be stated in the materials. Suppose I have sent my sample for NMR to some CDRI facility. I don't have NMR in my institute. So it is very important that I mention that the NMR analysis of the samples was carried out at the CDRI facility in Lucknow. If I'm not mentioning these facts, mentioning these facts increases the weightage of your work. Always remember, if you have sent the samples to some pathology lab, please mention. It increases the genuineness and the authenticity of work. Instead of if you are posing that everything was done without mentioning, I mean omission, you are not mentioning at all. That implies that everything you have done at your own resource, which is wrong. To provide enough details for a competent worker to repeat your study and reproduce the results. Do list the details that make a difference. Now coming to the methods. Now here is a very important tip for you. We are following certain standard procedures which are reported in the literature, which are reported in the books. And here is where maximum plagiarism occurs. Because there are only very few ways in which a particular thing can be said. A procedure, are there 100 ways in which you can state a procedure? No, only 1 or 2 or at the most 3 ways in which you can state the procedure that you have followed, which is a standard procedure. Then how to write? Because procedure is required. Then you may use flow charts to explain the procedure. You may use tabular form where step 1, step 2, step 3. So this is how you can, save your paper from the plagiarism checker software. Now, if it's a standard procedure, it is better to give the reference of the standard procedure instead of explaining the procedure. Whatever modifications in the procedure you have done, please definitely mention them. You may say that a procedure reported by so and so et al. 2008 has been adopted for this work. However, whatever changes, suppose a particular inducer, for example, carrageenan 1% solution if you are using, but in your study you have used slightly higher concentration. With justification, you have to mention. Suppose it comes to doses also. Reported doses might be different. You are using higher doses. Have you used the animal dose calculator? All these things should be clearly mentioned in the methodology. The scientific method requires that your results be reproducible and you must provide a basis for repetition of the study by others. If a method has been previously published in a standard journal, you can cite that reference, name the method, give the proper credit to the person who has reported or used that method from the literature. Results in this section, generally the research findings we are presenting either in the form of table or a figure or a graph or slides or graphical representation. Whichever way you present your result, statistical analysis of the results is something which you cannot and should not avoid. Any results which are not statistically analyzed are not acceptable by the scientific community. What are the various things that you have to mention? The sample size. Is it average of 6? Is it average of 5? The study was done in triplicate? Which statistical tests have been applied? One-way ANOVA, two-way ANOVA, student t-test or Tukey's test? Which test? Bonferroni test, which you have applied? What is the level of significance that you have applied to your results? What is the p-value, acceptable p-value in your work? All these things should be mentioned in the legend. Now, there are certain terms which we may not be familiar with. Legend. What is legend? Legend is nothing but a footnote that goes below the figure or the table. Also important is many a times we are not aware that you think that, okay, I have mentioned the P levels and I have mentioned the test. I need not include the error bars on my histograms. Sorry, in the graphs, please include the error bars. Please mention the level of significance by using the asterisks 1, 2, 3. Also important is to mention NS. NS is non-significant results. So the non-significant ones also in a table you have to mention. So the result comprises of a new knowledge that you are contributing to the world. It is important that your findings be very clearly stated. Now, wherever you are mentioning your results, it is not only graphs or tables. There has to be a number, figure 1, and then there has to be a caption. The captions of the figures are always given below the figure, and the captions of the tables are always given above the table. This is the convention that we follow. The footnote or the legend always is below the figure or below the table. You have to also mention in the discussion part, cross-refer to the figure. To that we will come afterwards. So avoid saying like this, it is clearly evident. It is very clearly seen. One can very clearly see. All such statements should be avoided when you are presenting your results. Simply you say bird species richness increased with habitat complexity. Very, very formal and confident statement you have to make. And in the bracket, like it is written here, figure 1, this is the way you cross-refer to all the figures and all the tables. Do not be too concise also. Do not expect the readers to extract trends from your data unaided. This we will discuss under discussion. See, how the results and discussion are different. This is a very, very primary question where most of us are clueless. In discussion, we generally tend to describe the results. Suppose you have presented your results in a graphical manner. In discussion, you will say that so and so in the so and so group, the transfer latency was so and so. You will give the particular reading, or you will say increase or decrease. Discussion is not about that. Discussion is not about repeating the results which you have given or presented in the form of figure or table in the form of readings or increase or decrease or no change. That is not discussion. You have to interpret your results under discussion. And because with the help of those interpretations, you are going to draw your conclusions. So you have to, while discussing, continuously you have to refer to your results, and in the bracket you have to cross-refer to figure number 1 or table number so and so or graph number so and so. Please do not repeat the readings under discussion. Always cite the work, a similar work which was done by some other research group, which also found similar type of observations like you have done. It increases your weightage. So for example, I will just give you one example to tell how you have to discuss. For example, I do work on IBD, and clinical activity score is one of the very important quantifying parameters. Now, I have clinical activity score for various groups. Under result, I have presented that. Under discussion, I should present to the readers the fact that if the clinical activity score increases, what does that mean? Clinical activity score is directly proportional to the severity of ulcerative colitis. If I make this statement and then I discuss what has happened with various test groups, then the reader will be able to understand, oh, the reading is going down. That means this particular group is showing a protective effect. Because There is a direct relationship between clinical activity score rate and severity of the disease. So if the score is going down, that means severity of the disease is reducing. These kind of statements should be made in the discussion. What is the importance of a particular parameter that you have studied? That should go in the discussion. And what is the repercussion of a particular observation? That should also be cited in discussion. Now, coming to the conclusion, should be precise. It should not be confused with the abstract or summary. Absolutely not. It is totally different than abstract or summary. Here, we are not supposed to extend our conclusions beyond those which are directly supported by your results. Only talk about what is justified by your results. Do not be loud. Do not hype your results. Do not make over-ambitious statements. Only stick to the facts and only stick to what is statistically significant. You can state the extent of fulfillment of your objectives. You have stated the objectives in the introduction. You can talk about whether your objectives were fulfilled, partly fulfilled, moderately fulfilled, or not fulfilled at all. Because conclusion, not only positives, you also have to talk about the negative findings. Try to avoid speculations, that is extrapolating the data. Stick to the facts. Don't unrealistically boast about anything. Talk about the most outstanding outcome. Also talk about what is the weakness or the flaw or the shortcoming in a particular design that you adopted for your work. This is going to be a stepping stone and learning experience for the other research groups who will understand, okay, this was the flaw in this design, so we better try to correct it in our own work. You can also talk about forecasting. What is the trend that is going to follow? What are the future prospects? Here, you can mention that these were the things which we planned to do, but due to time constraint, we could not. So our work is in progress to cover these different aspects of the work. By saying this, you are claiming that whatever has not been presented in this work is also being undertaken by our own research group. Now coming to, I think the plagiarism, I won't be able to continue because of time constraint. Acknowledgement is for those whom you would like to be grateful to, whom you would like to thank. These are those whom you have not included as authors because they don't fulfill the criteria of authorship, but you have to acknowledge. So various sources, those who have given you gift samples, from where you have carried out your outsourced the work, all such people or the companies or the manufacturers or the labs, you have to acknowledge. Funding. If your research scholar has got any funding or your publication is a part of some funding that you received from DST or AICT, do mention and thank them also. Author contribution is one thing which has come up recently. The editor and the readers also would like to know what is the contribution of each author, the first author, the corresponding author, and the co-authors. So generally you get, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options and you have to tick. If those options are not provided to you, you yourself can write a paragraph about author contribution where you say that so and so, you use the initials, so and so has collected the data, has carried out the experiment, so and so has finalized the draft, reviewed the article, given important critical points for discussion. All these things will come in author contribution. The references, very, very important, which we do not take so seriously. You have to list all the sources that you have used and have to cite it in your manuscript. The reference list is different than a bibliography. Bibliography, where also you give a reference list of the resources, but in bibliography, you also give the references of such resources which you have not cited in your paper. Generally, the bibliography is more applicable to the books and book chapters where you recommend additional reading. Reference list is only related to those works which you have cited in your work. List in which the sequence is required by the journal, that also you have to see by reading the instructions to authors. Please avoid references to the websites because they are not generally taken as authentic sources because the information keeps on changing. Always refer to the original articles. Do not rely only on the abstracts. Try to get the full texts. We generally do not put a period or a full stop after citing a reference. Now, if it is cited in a bracket at the end of a sentence, put full stop after the number. If it is in the superscript, the reference in the superscript will be written after the full stop. So these are certain conventions which we have to follow. There are two styles in which the references are presented. One is Vancouver style, which is also called as author number system, and there is a Harvard reference style. Whichever journal you are communicating your paper to will tell you which style to follow. So need not worry about it. But the author number is more popular and more popular in our life sciences, whereas Harvard style is more popular in social sciences and humanities. Always, whenever you are taking something from other sources, try to express it in your own words so that you avoid the plagiarism. You need not cite what the other author has cited from some other source. You have to only cite those authors or such work which is the original work of that particular author. When you are extracting information from other sources, try to paraphrase it and always give the credit by citing the reference. I will skip this. Now, organizers, can you please tell me how much time I have so that I can curtail my talk?
Ma'am, you can take 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So the general advice regarding formatting, because this is something which we take most casually. Where we want small letters, we will write in small. Where we want capitals, we will follow title case, we will follow sentence case, we will follow all caps as per our, whims and fancies. Technical writing is not like that. Formatting plays a major role, and many journals, they do the formatting afterwards for you, but the chances of your paper getting rejected and the editors to know that your approach is very casual when they find a paper which is not formatted properly are very high. So try to follow this general advice. One sentence paragraphs. We make too many paragraphs while drafting. Try to focus on one particular content, make it a paragraph. If the subtopic changes, make another paragraph. But don't put paragraphs after paragraphs. Only for 2 sentences you are making paragraphs. Never start a sentence with a number. This especially happens in chemistry, where we say 10 ml of methanol was taken. Write methanol bracket 10 ml. Now, if it is unavoidable, you write 10 in words, 10 ml, but never start a sentence with a number. Use binomial system for names. This fourth point, in vitro, in silico, ad libitum, de novo, in vivo, per se, ex vivo, et al, botanical names, microorganism names, all should be italicized. They should be in italics. Any word which is taken from a foreign language has to be in italics. Please make use of Grammarly software. Download it and upload your document. Once you have it active on your laptop, whichever, even in emails also, Grammarly is going to point it out that this sentence is wrong. You should add this verb is wrong. It should be in past tense or it should be in present tense. Everything it is going to point it out to you. Start using Grammarly today itself. It will ease out your life like anything. Then whether you are following British English or American English, please select one on your laptop so that every time you use color, honor, these kind of words like diarrhea or anemia, so British and American, they are going to point it out to you that this word is wrong. And then sometimes there is a conflict because you have made both of them active. So just select one so that the other is pointed out as a mistake that you have to correct. There are certain abbreviations that need a full stop. IE, that is, I dot E dot. But doctor, Mr., they don't need a full stop afterwards. This is the latest convention. So try to follow it. Gram is G, not GM anymore. Centimeter, cm. They have no full stops. Don't use full stops after G or cm. There are certain words like data, virus, bacteria. These are already in their plural form. Virion is the singular, virus is the plural. So we say viruses. Bacterium is the singular, bacteria is plural, we say bacterias. So we should avoid such type of errors. Grammarly is a must for all of us these days. Uniform formatting is must. And please read the instructions to authors very carefully before you start drafting your article. These are the correct use of units, which you will find at the end of any instructions to authors. Authorship is very, very important. Only those who have contributed substantially to your work, please include their names as authors. Do not fall prey to the temptation of offering gift authorships, ghost authorships to people just to oblige them. It is reducing your weightage in your contribution in a particular article. Now I'm going to skip plagiarism because the time is already over. Only thing that remember that plagiarism is unethical and it is considered as an academic dishonesty. Copying others' work without giving due credit and using your own work also from some other paper comes under self-plagiarism. And as young researchers, you may not be knowing this. I was not knowing about it. So I always make it a point of telling about this, that even if you are picking up templates from your own published work, it comes under self-plagiarism because the copyright of that paper is with that journal. So avoid self-plagiarism as well as taking some other people's published work and not giving due credit. See, taking or getting inspired or taking some matter from other papers for introduction is okay. Express it in your own words and cite their reference. Giving credit is very, very important. If you post that this whole thing is written by me without giving the proper credit, that comes under plagiarism. These are the different types of plagiarism. And these are the reasons why people plagiarize. Unintentional, acceptable. Writing skills, lack of writing skills, one needs to develop and you will develop it over the time. It doesn't happen overnight. Lack of knowledge of scientific ethics. UGC has introduced a very, very important course in PhD that is called Ethics in Research and Publication. So we were not taught that particular course. It is of prime importance, and those who have a liberty, I would suggest to include that in MPharm as well as an additional elective. If you are doing it intentionally, you will be caught. You think that there are lower chances of getting caught, but let me tell you, these days, the journals even have at their disposal the softwares which can catch if you have copied figures, if you have copied histopathology slides, the software can match cell by cell. So it's better to do a quality work than run behind quantity. These are the softwares which are available. Licensed versions are expensive. but the universities do have these days because UGC has made it mandatory for PhD thesis to be having plagiarism less than 10%. And you have to upload your thesis on Shodh Ganga and upload the plagiarism report also. Turnitin's trial version is available, but there is a limit to the words which you can upload there. So lastly, the onus is on us authors and not on reviewers or editors. And the journals are taking very, very stern measures to stop plagiarism. We must, as teachers, I appeal to all of you, we must promote amongst our students good writing skills, and we should not accept any report, any thesis. We should have in-house policy that the plagiarism should be below 10% or 15%. We can reward a creative writer, someone who has brought up a very novel, very nicely drafted article where the plagiarism is less than 10%. And we can connect it or relate it with the grades of the students also. We can reject the plagiarized thesis. UGC initiative I've already spoken. Let me share with you that PM Modi has taken a major initiative of developing an indigenous fact checking software, and very soon it will be available for us. We never realized this, that whatever we are uploading on the Authenticate or the Turnitin, we are making all our data, even unpublished work. Before publication only you are screening it for similarity, isn't it? So the moment you upload anything on Turnitin, the whole unpublished data we are making available to other countries. And this realization, PM Modi has in a very prominent way, he has taken up this initiative of developing our own indigenous software. So all the scientific data remains in India and it is not shared with other countries. So lastly, I would just like to share with you a quote of Professor Kerry Emanuel from MIT, Boston, because I follow this quote. Before writing a major paper, I make it a point to read papers by other authors whose writing style I have a high regard for, or with which I find comfort level, or I find the style appealing. I find that this can favorably influence my own writing till I find my own style and erase the unfortunate memory of numerous dry, badly written papers one inevitably has to read as background to the research one is presenting. Lastly, I always acknowledge through my special thanks, Dr. Vadlamudi Rao, former editor, Indian Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences, with whom I worked for quite a long time as member of the editorial board of IGPS, and from whom I have learned a lot about scientific writing. He is the one who mentored me and developed in me the passion for perfection in scientific writing and impeccable uniform formatting. Thank you, Dr. Rao, for that. Thanks a ton for your patient listening. I'm open to questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. It was really a treat to listen to you, ma'am. There are queries of the participants. Can I read, ma'am?
Yeah, please. Let me just unshare my presentation so that I can answer the queries. Yes.
Okay, ma'am. Can you please state the importance of letter to editor while submitting the manuscript?
Oh, that is called covering letter. That is not called letter to editor.
Okay.
I forgot to include that in my presentation. I think the who has asked this query wants to know about the covering letter. Am I right? Am I right? You want to know about covering letter?
Yes, ma'am. This was me who asked this question.
So the covering letter mainly is written to the editor, which clearly mentions the title of the paper, the authors, and there are certain very important things that you have to mention. That one thing is that you have to assure the editor, that this work, either in part or in full, has not been communicated simultaneously to any other journal, neither it is under consideration with any other journal. Number one. Number two, if it is involving any animal studies, you have to mention there that the animal studies, the protocols that were followed, they have the approval of the Institutional Animal Ethics Committee. Then, if at all you are using certain resources, like you are using some densitograms from someone else, or chromatograms, or some images, or figures, or even data, then you have to state there that you have formal permission to use the images or the data or the figures from someone else's work. And you have to attach that also along with your covering letter, or you can merge your covering letter with that approval. And then in one small paragraph, you have to market yourself by saying why your work is worthy to be considered for publication in that particular journal. You just mentioned that this is a novel work and it is about so and so. So this is these are the components of a covering letter.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
Second question is, can you highlight the importance of sequence in which the authors are listed?
Authors are enlisted. Authors.
Can you highlight the importance of sequence in which authors are listed?
Yes. Now, you know, like I said, that every aspect, like, you know, corresponding author, first author, this itself takes half an hour. Authorship. But in 45 minutes, it was difficult to contain myself, but I'll explain this particular aspect. You know, let us talk about the sequence of authors. First author generally is someone who has carried out the work. Now, in our case, most relevant will be the student. Student who has carried out that work in the laboratory, may it be a BPharm project, a major project, MPharm, in review article also, I would say that, but I will come to the complexity of that later on. So the one who has done the work should be the first author. Okay. Second author. Now there are two conventions. Earlier, the senior most or the guide or the supervisor or the principal investigator used to be at the last. At the last. But these days, because of the performance appraisal and the API score and the UGC scale that is given to the first author, then the corresponding author, now the sequence that one should follow is the first author is the person who has done work. Second is the corresponding author. The corresponding author will be the one who is responsible for all the data, authenticity of all the data that has been presented, and also responsible to answer the queries of the reviewers and the editors. Here we fail to understand the role of a corresponding author. Many a times we ask our research scholar to communicate the paper, to submit the paper on online portal, and he ticks his name as corresponding author because he thinks, oh, I have submitted the paper, so I become the corresponding author. So this notion is wrong. Corresponding author is the one who has the whole and sole responsibility of the work which is presented. He's the senior most person, he's the supervisor or the principal investigator or the what you can say, someone who is holding all the authority, whose novel idea that project was. So that is the corresponding author, whose place comes second. Then third might be the co-guide if at all is there, or a co-PI or whoever, or your collaborator. And then depending on their importance, you can add. Now here I would like to tell you, there is an option. Suppose two students, you are clubbing the work of two students. MPharm small work one has done, other one has done. You are clubbing the data together. Now whom to give first author and whom to give second author? Both of them are equally worthy. Then there is an option that you put asterisk, you put 1 and 1, that is for affiliation, of course, but you put some maybe a phi or something, and then denote it that author 1 and 2 have equally contributed to this work. So even if in the sequence one comes first and second comes second, both of them will get the equal credit as first author for that paper. I hope I have made it clear. Now there are ghost authorships, there are guest authorships. If you have taken help from a professional service, language editing or something like that, these things happen. You know, we Indians are blessed. We think our English is not so good, but our English is best as compared to China, as compared to South Korea, as compared to Russia, where English, they have to take help of professionals to draft their paper. They simply give the data and get the paper published. So such people whom you are paying for a job need not get the authorship. Please remember this. You can acknowledge them. That's where the difference between authorship and acknowledgement comes. Now, there is, I teach this to my PhD students in ethics and research and publication. That is one course which I take fully on me, and I teach the whole syllabus to all the PhD scholars, where we take such type of, case studies. Now, I give them a case study where, someone who has helped in taking the readings, someone, a lab attendant who helped in preparing the reagents, someone who took care of the animals. There are certain sophisticated instruments where the teachers or faculty doesn't allow, only PhD scholar. Okay, only you will handle, you will take the reading. Now that person starts feeling that, okay, my name should also come in the paper. Giving authorship for such mundane tasks is reducing the weightage of your paper. Please remember, but it is up to you. But it has to be under mutual agreement. There should be a written document which says that if I take your help, I will give you authorship. And your name is going to appear third or fourth or fifth in the list. This should be a written document. Then there are no, contradictions or any, bad taste is not there at the end of your, because all the disagreements come to authorship. Everyone is ready to help, but the moment the publication comes in shape, and if you send the paper to your co-author, the first thing that the co-author changes is the sequence in which his or her name is appearing. That is the first modification that the person does. So it is better to have a mutual agreement on this before you seek help or collaboration from anyone. If that is clear, then there are no issues later on. I hope I have answered your query.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is, please guide how we can cultivate discipline and regulatory in research, especially writing.
Yeah.
There are all to communicate in my case. This is from Dr. Digambar, I think so.
Yeah, it's a very good question, and I believe that discipline in research is directly related to ethics in research. Because as a guide, if you are disciplined, and the next important thing is, apart from being disciplined as a guide, if you are available to your students, these two things are of utmost importance and approachable. Third, to your students, then everything falls into place. But if you yourself don't have time, you are extremely busy, and you expect everything is to be done by the student by self-studying, using their own resources, then they happen to depend on some senior scholars who are working in the lab, or some other person who is available for help. Then you lose the control of the whole situation. So I think that as a guide, we must be disciplined first, and we should, in the first meeting itself, when the guide is allotted, what I do is I have a meeting and I very, very clearly tell, these are the do's and these are the don'ts if you want to work with me. I don't say work under me. I always use the term with me, because we have to remember that we have to work with the students. The students are not working under us. They are working with us. So the moment you inculcate this in the student, that we are a team and you are supposed to do these things. I tell my students to show the readings to me, and daily, not weekly, daily they are supposed to report to me. In the morning I have given some tasks to them. By the end of the day, they just come to my cabin and tell me, ma'am, this was done or this was not done. That's it. Why it was not done and what is the next deadline? I will do it by next week. Fine. But then next week, the student is supposed to report to me back. So you have to give them the deadlines. Please sign on the readings. Ask the students to write the readings in pen, not in pencil. Ask the students to maintain a log register which is numbered. The pages should be numbered. They are not supposed to tear off any page in between. Ye galat ho gaya, experiment phad diya page. No, all the pages should be intact. I sign at the end of the logbook saying this logbook contains 132 pages as on so and so date. And when the students leave, I take a Xerox copy of the logbook with me. Because if you are filing patents, raw data is of so much importance. And then if you maintain this kind of practice, the students will never be able to bring data from the air. They will never be able to do research in the air. This is the major challenge that we are facing. That out of blue, the students disappear, and after 2 months, they appear with results in their hand. They appear with a full manuscript in their hand or the thesis in their hand. And then how you are going to control it? If you have not interacted with them regularly, how do you know what they have done or not done? So these are, the good guideship practices that I think we should be first inculcating, and then we should expect something from the students. You should be very approachable, and timelines should be given to the students.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is, ma'am, are you comfortable? Should I?
I'm perfectly comfortable, provided all of you are comfortable. I'm here only, not any.
Okay, ma'am. Can you tell us about preprints? Should author go for it?
Preprints. Are you talking about paid preprints? Paid?
It's not mentioned here.
Can you ask who is asking?
I have asked that question, Madam Sunila.
Okay. So are you referring to paid?
Not necessarily paid. Nowadays, some journals have started this service.
Yeah.
So I was wondering whether we have any additional benefits.
Yeah, we can, preprints. I think, as per my understanding, I think that is the paper which is typesetted, and the revised version, that is the article in press kind of thing you are asking about. Is that version, preprint?
Yeah, so what happens is the publishers tell you to submit as such, and you can go on revising. It is not peer reviewed, but it is, you can invite suggestions from the readers itself.
I don't
attended one seminar, so I thought maybe
no.
you know better.
No, I am not aware of this particular aspect where before the peer review, you are able to circulate the paper amongst the peers and invite. I think, I am very sorry to say this, Dr. Vandana, but in Indian perspective, I don't think that
would work.
The confidentiality of the matter will be maintained, and unpublished data, we should not take risk of, circulate. I don't think so.
That's exactly I asked you, should authors go for it? Because there's always a security issue.
Absolutely not. You are making available the whole thing in soft copy, that too, so that only the drug's name can be changed and the whole work can be published. Yeah. But I will read more on this, Dr. Vandana.
Yes.
Thank you for letting me know this aspect of preprints. which I was not aware that it is to be circulated amongst the peer. I was not aware of this.
Thank you, ma'am. The last question for today's session is, can we add any published image and citing in the source or references?
Yeah, there are two aspects to this: published image of from your own work or someone else's work. Even if it is from your own paper, which you have published, or someone else, first you must have a written permission to use that copyrighted material. Now the thing is, this permission can be obtained from the editor of the journal and not the author. Please remember this. If you are approaching the author of that paper for permission, author is not the right person to seek permission from, because the copyright of that published content is with the publishing house. So you can write. I will give you a simple example. There was one book chapter invited on HPTLC by Elsewhere. And for that, we needed to use certain images from our own paper. And we wrote to the editors, because it was a comprehensive book chapter, we needed many densitograms from our own published work. Some journals gave us the permission, some did not. So please do not use any copyrighted material without permission of the publisher, because it is infringement of Copyright Act. You can use, but if you want to use, please seek permission. And like I said, in the covering letter itself, mention this fact. Because if you are using Biorad, for example, I gave example of Biorad, that you can create your own images, flow charts, and graphs and graphical content. Then I am using it, okay? But I am not mentioning in the covering letter that I have used Biorad. So when my paper goes in the publication cycle, I get a letter from the editor asking to make a statement that all images which I have used are original, or they are from someone's paper. If they are, please attach permission. So if you are not mentioning it in the covering letter, they will ask you. Then you have to very clearly mention that they are all original figures and they have been created by using so and so software. And if it is from some other source, please mention the source, cite the source, and permission also. And you know, when you are using such figures in the manuscript also, you have to mention this fact, that this copyrighted material has been used with the permission of so and so. That goes in the legend below the figure or the photograph.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for such an informative session. And you have really covered all the aspects and focused on importance of scientific writing, as well as a short briefing on the plagiarism, and has focused on goal of scientific writing and various communication types. Also, you have discussed the difference between the review and book chapters, and how to identify the purpose of professional scientific writing, and addressing your audience by a very easy example of the car accident. It will be really helpful for our trainers, ma'am. And also you have given us the detailed knowledge about and the importance of how to select the correct keywords so that we can increase our citation and H index, and also the various contents of the review articles and research articles. Ma'am, it will be really, this session will be really helpful for all our trainers for their research work and for guiding their students. Now, I'm grateful to our esteemed speaker, Dr. Sunila Dhaneshwar ma'am, for sparing time from a busy schedule and gracing this occasion with a warm presence, and for sharing her valuable knowledge with all of us and guiding us. And also like to extend my sincere thanks to all the delegates for their presence and active participation in making this webinar a success. Thank you once again. Anaga ma'am, are you there? Should we conclude the session?
Thank you so much for this opportunity, and it was wonderful to interact with everyone. And I was happy to receive the questions, because if you don't get questions at the end of the session, I become jittery. So I'm really happy to answer all the queries. And someone has asked one question: how we can select a journal? Journal suggestion option is available. You can post your abstract, and the journal tells you, the publishing house tells you which particular journal is suitable for your work.
Ma'am, one more question was there. The
Okay.
BioRed software, which
Yeah.
you have just mentioned, is it free?
Free.
Okay, ma'am.
All
Thank
my
you, ma'am.
students use it.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you once again, ma'am. Today's
Most
session
welcome.
is concluded. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you, Sunila ma'am. Thank you, Vandana ma'am, and thank you, Dr. Lovina, for nicely coordinating today's session.
Thank you. ma'am.
We have not yet concluded our webinar. It will still be there tomorrow. So I request all the participants in the large numbers at 10 o'clock tomorrow. And we will be having two very interesting sessions. One would be by Dr. Indupal Kaur, and that will be on the translational research. So please don't miss that. And the second one would be by Dr. Anuradha Majumdar on network pharmacology. So we are looking forward to having you all in tomorrow's webinar series, which will conclude tomorrow. So there would be a feedback link, which is already being placed in the chat box today. So please fill that up for today's, for giving the feedback on today's sessions. And tomorrow also, we will be having a final feedback link being put into the chat box after the sessions. And that will help you get your certificates as well. So thanks a lot and have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, ma'am.
It's great to connect virtually within a week
Yes.
with
Yeah.
all our delegates of the APTI Women Forum conclave.
Yes.
So a big hi and big shout out to
Yes.
all of you.
ma'am.
Bye.
Yes. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You are